devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
God is dead! Now I know what it feels like to be God.
85% of the teenagers in high school have been exposed to hardcore Satanism.
Jesus wants me to live an abundant human life.
The blackest night.
I'm the king, man.
Fallen angels directly out of the bottomless pit. The demons of death and hell out of the bottomless pit. Images of witchcraft, dark magic, torture, rebellion, and fallen angels. Satan's pretty cool.
Hello everyone and welcome to Fake Ritual, your guide to pop culture and the occult. I'm Lucas Sloppy and my guests today are returning guests Amanda Waltz and Sarah Hamm from the Pittsburgh podcast Ghoul on Ghoul. Hello!
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Hi,
Yeah,
fakers.
together.
Yeah, together.
Yes.
You got us both separate, and now you get the full package.
Yes, they have, for the listeners that don't know, if you want to go check it out, episode 25 and episode 28 featured Amanda and Sarah, respectively. So it definitely kind of showcased what Ghoul on Ghoul was about with like a mixture of, I talked with Amanda about V.C. Andrews and Southern Gothic horror, and I talked with Sarah about Black Dog folklore.
Your favorite.
So it definitely kind of came together. And speaking of Ghoul on Ghoul, tell the fakers what the podcast is all about.
Well, Sarah.
Yeah, I was like,
I'll let
you want me to say it, don't
I'll let you to say it.
Ghoul on Ghoul is a supernatural, sex-positive horror comedy podcast. We feature we feature first-person encounters with the paranormal, other creepy, cool stuff. Sometimes we have guests on who relay their own experience. Yeah,
Been less often.
less often just because of the
Pandy.
pandemic. But yeah, we do, I think, like a lot of fun stuff around folklore.
Yeah.
Like
supernatural, paranormal.
creepy.
Like creepy adjacent stuff.
Yes.
Any number of things.
I love it. It's also to point out, I was on episode 94.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah,
That
you
was
were.
the last
You
pre-pandemic.
were.
Yes.
And a great guest
I
you
did it.
were.
Patient zero.
Yes.
What a fantastic guest.
Your episode title was Abducted with a U-B because that's how you spelled abducted in like one of your student
kid
papers.
stories.
Yeah.
It was so cute. And every time I write the word abducted now, I think of that.
That's where it
yeah.
came
really
from.
cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those
Abducted.
listening at home, I read some of my old journal, my like second grade,
Like,
first
They were
grade journal.
so
Baby
cute.
Lucas.
Yeah,
They were
spooky
so
stories.
cute. We took pictures of it on our Instagram at GhoulXSchoolPod if you want to check those out, but like adorable.
We also took a video. I think you're one of the few guests we took a video of.
Aw.
Yeah.
posted
You were just
it.
doing such a good job.
It was so
I
theatrical.
had to
Yeah.
prove my ghoul cred. And now, as we stumble through concepts with maybe the answers, maybe not, you will now prove your fake cred. Just
Yes.
don't
can't
know
wait.
too much,
Yeah.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
Well, on to the topic at hand. And this is, I ask like I have to tease these topics, but they're in the title of
They're
the
right
show.
there. They're
And
right
in
there,
the
buddy.
description. So what are we going to be talking about? Oh, I don't know. Is it a movie? Is it a TV show? Is it a video game? Who knows?
Oh, tell us more or don't.
We're talking about 1980s The Changeling.
Yes.
Horror film. Without really getting into the synopsis, what's a quick sell?
George C. Scott is haunted.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a mansion. There are beautiful equestrian inspired like late 70s outfits.
Yes.
It is, and
The coats.
the whole cast is like over 40 at least,
Yeah,
at
at
the very
least.
least. I was like, I love this adult ass horror movie.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Well, before we break it down, do you want to watch the trailer?
Yes.
Within this old house live two residents. One of them is John Russell, composer, professor. The other has been dead for over 70 years.
Claire, I'd like to talk to you about the house.
John?
is it you want? What do you want from me?
Many films will frighten you, but only a few can really terrify you. The Changeling, an experience beyond total fear.
Man, the fucking Changeling, right?
Yeah.
I will say it is one of the better horror movies out there.
What's so great about the Changeling? Why do you love it?
Where do we begin? Oh my god.
Gosh.
The
5 minutes or less.
Yeah, oh no.
Set design, the costuming.
Yeah, there's so much okay, so I feel like drinking game, whenever I talk about movies and I say it has texture, take a shot, you'll be dead. You'll be Dylan Thomas fucking dead. I love a movie that feels real. There's something about it where you're like, this is a real wooden door.
Yeah.
This is a real glass. It just has a reality and
weight.
People are ugly. It's not like a movie now where everyone is gorgeous. It like I said before, this is all, for the most part, an older cast. I think there's something so interesting about a horror movie geared towards adult problems and also systemic problems of wealth, inheritance, who is
grief.
marginalized. Grief, exactly.
Trauma.
Having it all, losing it all, trying to move on with your life after immeasurable loss, secret identities, all of that stuff.
It's worth pointing out this movie definitely, you wouldn't have The Conjuring without this movie. You wouldn't have so many of the new turn of haunted house movies.
Yeah.
Watching this for the first time, I was like, oh, that's
movie,
where that trope came from.
Oh my
that's
god.
where that trope came
So was
from.
this your first time watching
Yes.
this? Oh
Yes.
my god.
People had always been like, watch it.
This
Watch
is
it.
at least my second time.
Oh, it's probably
my
my
goodness.
fourth, honestly.
Yeah.
But Amanda, what?
I just talked a lot. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Well, I was going to say, so I've seen this about 4 times. The first time I watched it was my friend Terry, when we were kids. Her dad was a huge horror B-movie, drive-in movie, garbage. It's fine.
Sorry.
So just open your can.
I'm opening a beer. I was
We're having fun.
now that Amanda's talking, I could open my beer.
I'm going to be disrespectful. But so when I was a kid, she had reams of VHS tapes, stuff taped off the TV, stuff that they bought. So she was like, oh, have you ever seen The Changeling? And I loved it. I thought it was great. And then I've watched it a couple times since then. And I will say there's something about this movie where every single time I watch it, it's like a whole new movie.
Yeah.
It's I haven't watched it before. Either because I was so focused on one thing watching it previously and then watching it again, I'm like, oh, wait a second. There's something about this movie where also, and this is I was actually late to this podcast recording because I was talking about this with my husband. So this came out the same year as The Shining.
Oh.
It did.
And there is a weird amount of overlap between the two movies. Just in terms of themes, in terms of settings.
Yeah.
And I think what it comes down to is, so this is 1980. So this is the time when divorce was on the rise, when women were trying to enter the workforce. And so there was this sort of sense of the breakdown of the American family. And I think The Shining and The Changeling deal with that in very different ways. And it's how it ends up is George C. Scott, General Patton, a man's man, is bawling his eyes out in this movie, and
that was so hard to watch.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
We'll just get into
maybe
break down the plot here a little bit,
absolutely.
and then we'll kind of get into our favorite scenes. But
I'm getting too analytical.
Yeah, we're straight to the theories, baby.
Let's do it.
I love this theory though.
After a tragic event happens, which we'll get into that fucking tragic event, brutal, composer John Russell, played by George C. Scott, moves to Seattle to try to overcome it and build a new and peaceful life in a lonely, big house that has been uninhabited for many years. What would plot synopses be without run-on sentences?
Yeah,
of course.
But soon after, the obscure history of such an old mansion and his own past begin to haunt him.
So, I mean, it's not a spoiler to say that his wife and child young child. Like, I think she's probably like, what, 12, 13?
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
die in a very tragic accident.
Oh, and he's like trapped in a fucking telephone booth and like can't save them or warn them. Like it's just like
reverse Superman.
Yeah,
he's
like,
going
do
into the
you
telephone
want
booth and
to be
losing his power.
impotent. Like watch your like everyone you love die horribly and meaninglessly.
Right.
Yeah, fucked up.
And they were cute. They're
They were
kind of
so
like
cute.
frolicking in the
So
winter
cute. The little
snow
girl was so
and
cute.
let me.
Like I had a moment where I was like, I feel as if perhaps this movie might have been a touch more effective if George C. Scott and his wife, who I think was like pretty age appropriate, like she was a little younger
probably in
than
her
him, but
30s.
like not,
Yeah.
you know, I would say early 40s, but whatever.
Oh,
like
interesting.
I feel like it would be more effective if like the child was their grandchild. And, like, he had, like, a strained relationship with, like, his son or something like that. And so then he would also have this, like, spoiler alert, like, weird issues with sons. The way that, like...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was like, this dude is too old for that child. But...
Because there is a bait and switch later. He
There
moves
is.
into the new house, you know,
Yes.
and it's a big house.
that house is huge.
It's also not a
Huge.
real. It was just a facade put
Was it
in
just
front
a
of it.
facade?
Okay.
Everything, them running around, which blew my mind. All sets. All sets. I think
That's
filmed in Vancouver because it was
amazing.
filmed in. It was set in Seattle, even though the real story,
Right.
which. To
Is
point
like-
out, you can check out on episode 116 of Ghoul and Ghoul, the podcast.
Handsome Hollywood dildo.
Yes. You can hear the true story, but the true story took place in Denver, Colorado.
Yes,
they
it
reset
did.
it to Seattle because they were going to film in Canada because it's cheap. It was
Yeah.
cheaper.
Wow.
And
this is
Seattle
like-
can look
but
more.
they were gonna go here, but then they went here.
this
Yeah,
and then that.
Hollywood. But yes, he moves into the house. Weird shit starts to happen, and the first kind of weird history of the house he unravels is the death of a little girl.
Yes.
Much
Yes.
like the death of his little girl, but ends up being sort of a
It's like an
Red herring,
automobile
it's a-
accident. Yeah,
A
yeah.
coal cart.
Right. Because it's the early 1900s.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't enough.
Coal cart. What a
Coal
what
cart.
a fucking turn of the century way to die.
Ooh, it's like she fell down a well. Goodbye. Yeah, it is really, I love an old-fashioned ghost story.
Oh yeah.
Always
Yeah.
love an old-fashioned
Oh,
ghost
yeah.
story. But I also love a mystery. I feel like
That's a great point.
There's
Yeah.
a microfiche scene.
Microfiche?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you go to the library,
Yeah.
you look at the microfiche. I was
Yeah.
like, this is my jam.
But it is. It's a blend of mystery and horror, which is always keeps you.
and it's a good mystery too.
Yeah.
It
It's a
is.
Yeah.
very good mystery.
Because that's the thing. It's a slow-paced film. The bad reviews I was reading, people that didn't like it, that's kind of all
wrote
of
Who?
their.
We'll beat them up.
I go on IMDb, look at 1-star reviews, and see what people say. But no one was
like,
very
"Oh,
funny,
no,
so
oh,
I'm
no,
not
it's
going
not."
to read any of them.
No, it is slow, you know?
Yeah, but it's moody and
Yeah, like you just kind of, you are forced to sink into
Yeah.
the vibe of it.
Oh,
You're living
And
there
if
with
you-
him.
Yeah, like if you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
get down with it, yeah, there's like, and there's so much, like you can really feel a sense of space, not only from like the American West and all that promises and this sort of like facade of new opportunity and
Oh,
like
yeah.
you can be a self-made man here. But then like you start to realize like this place is deeply haunted, you know,
Yeah.
as a house and as a locale.
You heard it in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
That like the first thing he hears is just in the middle of the night, this like pounding.
Yeah.
Like-
Well, I was gonna say too. So he is a composer, and I do think this movie is trying in a way to be a composition. Like there's something very
Oh,
musical about
interesting.
it because even when you hear that pounding, that loud pounding, and Mr. Tuttle, of course his name is Mr. Tuttle, the
love it.
groundskeeper, is like, oh, it might be the furnace, blah blah blah, and he's like, no, it was too rhythmic, and I was like, yeah,
Rhythm.
See, that's good. That's good writing, though. That's just
Yeah.
good. Everything's
good
kind of like
writing.
circling back on itself.
But also the editing.
Sound design and the
Oh,
editing
yeah.
is like,
The
wait,
editing
he's
is
a
superb.
composer, so we should. Not enough movies do that. They just make arbitrary editing choices, arbitrary sound design
Oh, this
choices.
movie definitely is very deliberate in its editing choices.
Serve the story.
There's a lot of like long takes, and that's kind of why I feel like there's something very musical about it. There's something, it almost feels like a composition where there's like long takes where the camera's moving around, but then there'll be like a very abrupt cut. Mm-hmm. And then there'll be like another long take and a very abrupt cut. And it's like, oh, this feels very, I don't know.
What do they
there's
call that
something-
in in
I used to study
composition,
music.
Yeah,
Pizzicato. No,
yeah.
Allegro.
I
Yeah.
have no idea. But
Decrescendo. Yeah.
somebody who is much more knowledgeable would know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it does. There is something about it where, yeah, the editing, the sound, everything has a purpose.
It's progressive in
It's
the sense
progressive,
of like,
yeah.
like
I will
prog rock.
say-
You know, it has movements. It has movements.
It does. It
'Cause
absolutely
there
does.
is kind of a lull, maybe like in between maybe the first and the
Right.
second act, where you're kind of like, oh, like
Right.
nothing's really going on,
Yeah.
and then like you
Oh,
find,
yeah,
find out
100%.
new things, and then we'll get to it eventually, but that fucking finale was what made me be like, oh wait, this movie
This is the movie.
the shit.
Yeah.
That
It's the
ending,
fucking shit.
because the plot gets a little convoluted at times, but it's all intentional.
It's you can still follow it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You still understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So he hears these sounds in the house, and then
Okay. There is something is thrown out of a window in
Yes.
his house.
Yes.
And
It's
he
the red
stained glass. Yeah. And he sees like red glass on the ground and is like, oh, what's that? And then he looks at the house and he realizes way, way, way up at the top of the house there is one window with red stained glass. So he goes to the top of the house and it's just a storage closet. And he's like, oh, that's weird. And then just like nature coming to the fucking rescue.
yeah.
Just like feels the wind coming from like a chink in the backboard of that closet, and then he tears it down. There's like a scene where he like hammers at an old lock, and like he does it in such a weird way.
but he also is just like
He's
George
not
C.
like-
Scott is.
Ugh.
He's got that wrinkly. He always had that wrinkly face. Those
I've also
expressive
pictured him-
eyes.
Yeah.
Those,
He was
just like-
never young.
No.
No, never young. He was born an old weird
For
baby.
me, he's, if
Yeah.
the listeners, if this will help them further, he's Patton, but he's also, I forget his name, but he's the guy with the gum in Doctor Strangelove.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's the guy that's
Yeah.
always...
Yeah.
Those are his biggest
Yeah, fighting
roles.
here, it's the war room.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just, the way he pounds away at that lock, like,
It's just like, he
determined, his
seems like-
hair's like,
Yeah.
talk about looking like a composer. It's
Just
very
like,
like
oh, yeah.
completely
Beethoven, like,
unhinged. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like he doesn't stabilize with one hand and then pound on the other. He's just like loose pounding with one hand and his whole body's like shaking. It's like
his old man tits are definitely like
honestly,
Dude,
it's
feet.
almost like watching someone masturbate a little bit, because you can't really see, like, you can only see his hand on the upswing, but you don't really see it on the down. So it's just like his like very earnest, mad face. I don't know what it is, but I was like, this is disturbing, but also a little funny.
But I think George C. Scott does, I think, elevate this movie
Oh, absolutely.
so much just by
Absolutely.
some of the people knocking it. I also saw they didn't like that he didn't react like very big. But they even when people write bad reviews, but then they admit, like, they kind of undercut themselves, because he was like, well, I mean, I know it probably was because he didn't want to do what all the other ghost movies were known for doing at the time. And it's like, yeah, so no, you can't.
Well, also
you
he's
can't
an old
complain
school
about
dude.
that now.
Yeah.
He's an old school guy. You're not supposed to show emotion.
And it's a movie about masculinity and lack of empathy.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think that connects it to The Shining too, because I think with The Shining, it's like you have these two men who are haunted, who are losing or have lost their family, and one of them embraces his, being vulnerable.
Right.
Whereas Jack Torrance does not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his downfall, really.
I love this connection.
Oh, I have been thinking about this all fucking day.
Sweet.
Write a paper about it, please.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
There's probably already one out there.
Okay, so he's in the attic. He finds, there's like this shot where he is standing sort of like in the middle of the screen, and then you see this like dust and cobweb covered wheelchair, and you realize the wheelchair is so small. Like, it's a child's wheelchair. And I feel like in every other time you see it, it kind of looms and it seems like bigger and larger and scarier.
Shot from underneath.
But like that one, it's like, oh, this is for a child. Like, this is a sight of a deep tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
so
even
sad.
because you do hear the spirit's voice, and it is,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, at points it's almost comically a little boy voice. Like,
Yeah.
it almost sounds like someone imitating a little boy voice.
Father.
How did you die? How did you die? How did you die?
Father, farewell, rich, sacred heart.
far as just things that the ghost does to make its presence known.
Yes.
There is the ball that he has.
Speaking of tropes,
that
that's
the
the
character's
biggest
name's
one.
John, right?
Yeah.
That John has. That was
his
daughters. Keeps like showing up.
Oh,
he gets rid of it
He
over a
throws
bridge.
it off a bridge and then it shows up.
It
It's
shows
so
up coming
messed up.
bouncing on the stairs. Yeah.
No.
And my favorite part, because this is after the attic, he kind of like starts to piece things together, but where he composes a piece of music, a new piece of music,
Yes!
and then discovers a music box in the attic that plays the music. I don't even know how that works.
Oh, that's messed up.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I will
I
say
love
there's
that
something
part.
about this movie too that I appreciate where like, yeah, obviously it's terrifying. Obviously scary things happen. There's jump scares, the ball and everything. But people are like moved by the spirit. I mean, when they listen to the recording of that boy when he records the seance, I mean, that woman just starts bawling her eyes out because it's so sad.
Yeah.
This movie allows you to feel sad and feel empathy for the spirit, which, as opposed to just making it like, oh, this boy died and now he's evil. And it's like, no.
Yeah, you
not
basically
really.
find out, we're talking this boy. He learns that it's a boy, I guess,
Yes,
through the
Joseph.
microfiche at the...
Wait, no, the
So-
microfiche.
He has a
That's
vision
the
as
daughter.
well.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Ooh, that
okay.
vision is fucked.
The microfiche is the little girl who got run over by the coal cart. Then they have the seance. Through the seance, it
yes.
is
When they
revealed
find
that
out.
they're speaking to a boy through the most terrifying scene of like just monotone speaking and
That-
automatic writing.
That
Like,
actor sold.
oh
yeah.
my God. I like, while
Her
I was
boy's
watching
just like,
it.
her dude's just like holding the paper and
and he's
moving
like,
it. So
no,
she's just like,
yes,
Yeah.
no, Joseph, or
John
whatever.
is here
yeah.
with us.
Oh, it's
Do you want to speak to John?
You're right.
Yeah.
It's up there. This makes me think of, and I'm sure you know this movie. What is it? The Haunting of...
Hill House?
It's not called The Haunt. It was a British
Just The
movie
Haunting.
out of the... Not The Haunt.
We're going to keep...
The Haunting of Hell House.
So I am not a fan of The Haunting of Hell House. Is that the one with
okay.
Roddy McDowell? Because
I'm not sure. But anyways, the seance. What? And then it ends with a big jump scare, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mm,
yeah.
Glass shattering.
I love a jump scare.
Especially in the 1980.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you were saying earlier, this movie definitely comes out of the 70s. Like, it's so 1980.
It's like the quality horror,
Mhm.
like when, because horror movies, that was a decade when horror movies could win Oscars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so people were like, oh, well, let's make prestige horror. But at the same time, it's still really freaking scary. I mean, you have prestige actors. You have probably the best set designers, wardrobe people. I mean,
Yeah.
this movie the production values are
Incredible.
like astronomical.
Yeah, for the time, for the
Yeah.
genre. That seance scene, I've got to say, is, I think, the scariest seance.
Yeah.
You know?
so good.
And it's like nothing supernatural really happens until the very end with that glass shatter. And,
Well,
like,
look at
you
the
see
cone.
the cone.
What is that
the cone is so
It's like a crystal
fucked.
cone or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like it kind of has like an Ari Aster vibe a little bit. Like
Oh,
I feel like
100%.
he
Oh,
loves
he
like
definitely
a
loves the Changeling.
fucked up weird cone. Like he loves a weird triangle shape.
"Is that a
yeah,
weird cone?"
Ooh, a cone. Yeah, it was just like to see this like sort of very foreign object like teeter on a table and you're not exactly sure what it's supposed to be
Yeah.
indicating, and then like you get this totally different like
You're like, what the fuck is
physically
that?
oh, so messed up. Like as I was watching it, I became conscious of just like pulling my feet like into my body in the safety of the sofa, because I was like, I don't want anything dangling. I don't want a ghost to touch me. Like it
I
was
know the
one of
feeling.
those movies where you're like, I'm just gonna turn into a little ball and
This-
I'll be safe.
I will say, even though I've watched this movie multiple times, it still spooked me.
It's so scary.
It's so scary.
It is a scary movie.
Yeah.
I
It
mean-
locks you in. It really just makes like going downstairs a little scarier. It makes you want
My attic is
Yeah.
addict.
yeah.
But
So-
let's bring it to that finale.
Yeah, okay.
So there was a man. He was married to a very rich woman. That very rich woman died. They had 2 children together. One of them, the daughter, gets killed by a coal cart. He has a son. The son is very sickly. And so the whole idea of it is the father will be able to inherit his wife's family's fortune, but if his son dies, oh no, I think it was like going to go to the son. It was going to go to the son. It's already confusing.
Yeah.
They explain it in the movie. There's an exposition dump
basically,
at one point.
to get money,
he
he needs his son to
be healthy.
Yes.
So if his son died, all the money would go to charity.
Yes.
He wouldn't get any of it. So what he does is he kills his sickly son by drowning him in a little bathtub. So fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And
it's a nasty scene.
Yeah.
It's
So
like
nasty.
it's very.
Oh yeah, it's like, do you want to see a child get murdered?
It's not
right
super.
away?
It's not grotesque.
No.
It's not
It's just sad as fuck.
gratuitous at all. But it just like the implication and the angle and everything.
Oh yeah, and you don't even see like the father's face.
Actually, that was shot after all the principal photography. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I believe it because it did feel disconnected in a way that I really liked.
Same.
Yeah. Because they probably had to clean up that dusty old room.
Yeah.
So basically, he kills his real biological son. He adopts a son and is like, we're going to go to Switzerland where he can get well. But it's not the same boy. And he's like, he was miraculously cured in Switzerland. Now we're back in, 10 years later in the U.S. And here we are.
And then that son, the fake son, the quote-unquote changeling child, grows up to be this very sort of like philanthropic senator who is,
Democratic senator.
A Democratic senator.
Yeah. That's so much.
Can't trust them.
Such a different thing in 1980.
Yeah. Who like he's in his 80s, 70s,
He's old.
80s.
It's Melvin
He's
Douglas
very
too,
old.
which is
yeah.
old. He was like in silent movies.
This and A Ghost Story were his last two.
Oh,
movies.
wow.
Ghost Story
So
too.
we could probably have Yin's back to talk about Ghost Story because it actually does.
Yeah.
link with
Fantastic
this.
actor. Very, very
Old
old in this
people
movie.
and ghosts. Yeah, A Ghost Story.
Oh, so many old people.
And it is revealed that he's kind of in cahoots with like the Historical Housing Association, and he's kind of been like keeping this under wraps, and like he at first like calls a fucking cop to basically be like, George C. Scott is like on my trail.
Can I say the one thing about this movie that I find befuddling is the death of the cop?
Nope.
Yeah.
Joseph said ACAB. He was like, the fucking guard dogs of oppression get put down. Fuck that shit.
The woman's like...
No, this movie is like deeply communist.
The scene where, because his woman friend who he's been like working with, she's like, I was just passing by and I'm on a phone booth. I'm gonna tell you I saw this cop, but he's dead. Oh well. I was like, what?
Because as I saw this movie once, maybe like a few years ago, and then as I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't even think that like anything violent happens in this. And then Joseph flips that cop's car over, and I was like,
middle of the street.
All right, like you don't fuck with this baby ghost. You don't do it.
Well, and the senator realizes that because everything's kind of coming to a head with George C. Scott returning to the house. His woman friend, who was actually played by his then wife,
really,
George C. Scott.
Oh, he was no longer married to Colleen Dewhurst.
This is what's her name? Look at me consulting all my screens.
She has like a 3-name.
Her name is
Priscilla Jonathan Price.
Trish Vanderveer.
Trish.
Yeah.
Trish.
But anyway, she's in the house. The ghost is kind of like coming at her. George C. Scott races home to intervene, and as things are kind of getting bad, and Joseph sets the fucking house on fire.
He
and the wheelchair chases her down, and like it's just like pandemonium.
There's an explosion. I love an explosion.
I love
it's like explosion.
It's definitely that vibe of what is going on. Holy shit! It's just all like chaos, and then who walks in? But the fucking senator.
Can I say he astral projects?
Yeah, absolutely. Because he's like in his office staring at this like portrait of like this very small painting of his father with like. Oh my god, with like the real son's like metal draped over it, and he's just like staring at it intently, and there's this like golden light that like reflects from the metal onto his face, and you can tell that he's in some sort of like astral projection, like hypnotic state. And you see him walk up the stairs like as like fucking
Banisters
fire.
on fire.
Oh my god.
Second floor is
and it's
So
so
cool.
stylized. Like the fire like creeps along the balcony.
And just narratively, it really hits. Because at the moment, I was kind of like, what's
Is
going
he
on?
there?
I was like, oh, he told the senator.
Yeah.
Like, and then nothing came of that. Who cares? And then to see that the senator himself was kind of like...
The astral projection of the senator. Like,
just the fact that he's like, I gotta die.
Yeah, and then the senator actually does die.
Like he goes
in his office.
and he sees the act, the murder.
Yeah.
He goes up into the attic, he sees the act, and then just like, time to die. Goodbye, world.
Yeah, just so like it really brings this closure that I wasn't expecting. I thought it was just going to be that kind of ghost story ending. Like, well,
oh no, it goes the extra mile.
But
it
then,
burns down the fucking house.
And then what is left standing? But the
wheelchair and the music box.
And the music.
And the music box. Like, which I think is so deft in its symbolism because it's like, even though we can bring justice to oppression, you know, the remnants of that oppression will always be there. Unfortunately, that's the wheelchair. But through that oppression and through the righting of those wrongs, like, we can also produce something of value to society.
Right.
That's the music box. Like, that's the music that comes out of it.
And then ties to the composer as well. Like,
right.
Yeah.
So good.
Gorgeous.
So tightly. Wrapped up. I love it.
Anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, the
I feel
Changeling.
like I rhapsodized.
Well, and we should say too, so you want to get, so the only time that they say the Changeling, because it is kind of weird that this movie is called the Changeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because changelings are like Irish folklore for basically
British Irish,
baby switcheroo.
Yeah. And he only says the Changeling towards the end, and it, like George C. Scott.
And it's as a metaphor.
Yeah, as a metaphor, and he says it, and it almost seems, and we were talking about this earlier, it almost seems like he was kind of like, they were like, oh, we should probably say Changeling.
We should explain.
Yeah, it seems like they named the movie before they filmed the movie.
100%. Yeah.
So good.
It's the Leonardo DiCaprio meme of him, like, from Wolf of Wall Street just pointing at the TV. Like, it's like, it's the Changeling. They said it. Oh, one final thing. So, Changeling lore in, like, we'll just call them the British Isles, is oftentimes, folklorists think, used to explain the presence of, you know, and this is super ableist, but, you know, physically and mentally disabled people, babies, people with Down syndrome, things like that. Yeah, so oftentimes if you had a child with a disability, it would, you know, be sort of postulated, oh, this child is a changeling child. The fairies took our normal, beautiful, perfect, able-bodied baby and left behind this other baby. And that's why oftentimes changelings would wither and die. Because number one, you know, it's fucking the 13th century or whatever. They don't know a lot about infant care, especially if this infant has special needs. And two, oftentimes, you know, it was kind of an excuse to mistreat or neglect a baby if you could say that potentially it was not your baby. Yeah, it's really fucked, but it relates to the movie The Changeling because it's an inversion of that, right?
Yeah.
The real child is the child like with a disability, and then, you know, or who is like of ill health or whatever. I don't think they ever really go into
They never really, he probably had consumption.
Right,
or something.
right.
Yeah.
And then the false child is this like beautiful golden boy. Yeah, so
Very
it's like
nice.
a very interesting inversion of the Changeling,
Explains
you know,
the title,
folklore.
like,
yeah.
more so to realize
I think
that
you
they're
really
playing with
gotta
it.
know. You gotta know a lot
Yeah.
of shit.
Look at you.
Yeah. Look.
Coming in here.
I spent a too long of a time on Encyclopedia Mythica as a kid.
As we all do. Oh, I mean, any other final thoughts on The Changeling?
It's a good fucking movie. You should watch it. That's
like,
it.
do it. I mean, obviously, I think there is a case to be made with this movie that it's about oppression, it's about marginalized people and how they are silenced. I
Probably
do think
a little bit about eugenics too.
absolutely about eugenics, and like how, you know, the cry for justice is relentless, and like the oppressed won't be silenced, and if you try to, like, justice will erupt in violent ways that can, you know, flip over a fucking cop's car and also like threaten the people who were, you know, ostensibly trying to help, like George C. Scott too. You know?
Yeah, whoever's
like,
in the crosshairs.
Yeah, it's like within everyone's interest to like see justice met out. Otherwise, like it will, you know, become a force of nature that is like beyond law, beyond morals.
I will say it kind of reminds me, I don't know how familiar you are with the Lindbergh baby case.
Oh.
And I think you and I...
Yeah.
I wonder if this got some inspiration from some of the conspiracy theories.
I could see that.
Around the Lindbergh baby case. Look into that because there's some similarities.
And just
There's
in
some
general, I mean,
theories,
there's tons of conspiracies about people being switched.
Oh, being switched.
Famous people and
Which
politicians and
Which
celebrities
I've talked
and stuff.
about in an episode.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming on and talking about the Changeling.
Our pleasure.
The ghost of George C. Scott thanks you.
I hope
he
he's
yelled
with
that
me.
at me last night.
He's like,
what are you?
Tell those nice broads I said thanks.
you got a little bit of the George C. Scott chin when you did that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Jet it out a little. Oh, there it is.
Anything to promote?
I mean, promote.
To promenade.
I mean, just us.
Yeah. Just our beautiful selves.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to listen to Ghoul and Ghoul, you can go to any podcatcher, any like Spotify,
Apple Podcasts. Yeah, all that good stuff.
You know, anything like that. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram, Ghoul Looks Ghoul Pod. Yeah.
Check us out. Yeah.
Check them out. And check out their past appearances on Fake Ritual, episode 25, where I talk with Amanda about V.C. Andrews and Southern Gothic horror, and episode 28, where I talk with Sarah about black dogs and more British folklore.
Oi! It's British folklore. Sorry.
It's very fun.
Thank you.
Follow us over on Instagram at Fake Ritual and email us at fake.ritual.inc@gmail.com if you want to be on the show or you want to, make fun of me or whatever. Just send emails. I'm always looking for the emails. But more importantly, rate, review, and subscribe. Really, rate, review. There's 4 ratings on iTunes right now for us, all 5 stars. So whoever did that,
nice.
Fuck yeah.
Maybe one.
I also don't even throw a 1 star in there, whatever. I mean, don't. But
honestly, when you get
funny.
your first 1 star, you're like, ooh,
come at me.
Yeah.
Come
someone who doesn't like me listens to this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's coming. The the send-off that I stole from your show. You usually send off with a 1, 2, 3, go by. Here we do. You do 3, 2, 1, go by.
3, 2, 1, go by.
Here we do a 1, 2, 3, go fake yourself.
Love it.
Let's do it.
So
okay.
We 3. 1, 2, 3.
Go fake yourself.